Outbound shipments of South Korean semiconductors could rise more than 10% this year, a likely scenario as the pandemic spurs companies and consumers to spend more on laptops and other devices. Eum Ji-yeong explains further.
South Korea's semiconductor exports are forecast to surpass $100 billion in 2021. That would be the second time in history for the figure to exceed the $100 billion mark. According to the data released by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy on Tuesday, the country's exports of semiconductors in 2020 stood at $99.2 billion, up 5.6% compared to the previous year. Despite the sluggish global trade amid COVID-19, 2020 still saw South Korea's second highest ever semiconductor export figures.
Due to contact-free trends amid COVID-19, there was high investment in servers, and the demand for semiconductors that go into servers was also higher than expected.
As of December 2020, Samsung Electronics was ranked the world's #1 semiconductor firm in terms of market capitalization, beating Taiwan's TSMC. The market was shook up when the U.S. imposed restrictions on suppliers to Chinese tech giant Huawei, but an expert says this had little impact on South Korean semiconductors last year.
Sanctions on Huawei had little or no impact on country's exports because Huawei had already purchased all the semiconductors that it needed for this year before the restrictions took effect in September.
Another expert says the sanctions on Huawei could actually boost South Korea's foundry market by more than 20% this year, as U.S. fabless companies are expected to turn to Samsung Electronics for production. The global use of semiconductors is to increase further in 2021, with the smartphone industry expected to use 2.4% more, the server industry expected to use 6% more, and the PC industry expected to use about 6% more semiconductors this year. South Korea's investment in semiconductor plants and equipment is also forecast to rise, and it is expected to reclaim the #1 spot in 2021 after falling to #3 in 2019 behind China and Taiwan. Eum Ji-yeong, Arirang News.